yay for WebApps. And I'll just show you how much more streamlined the whole process has become now. So, you're still going to have to do planning and content development. Don't skip this step, it's the most important thing. You're going to have to choose which web app to use, but you don't have to worry about hosting or CMS in addition, because the ones that I'm going to show you have that all integrated. There are some applications that you can install on your own hosting, but most of the web apps will include hosting as part of the deal. You still have to create great content, whether that's you or a copywriter or whomever, and you still have to think about how best to present your content to the online audience. But the more and more people become accustomed to using websites themselves, the more people can start to recognize what makes a good website and what makes a really boring one. As for the design process, you can now create or source logos from online marketplaces. How many of you have ever heard of crowdspring.com? Okay, so one of you have heard of it. If not, it's worth checking it out. If you ever need any graphic design or logo design, crowdspring.com is a global marketplace. You put up a bid and you say, hey, I need a new logo for my architecture company. People submit their proposals, and then you can choose which of those proposals you like. So it saves you the act of having to look someone up in the phone book or whatever, and usually you get to preview what the actual work is going to look like before you choose. And it's quite handy for that sort of thing.
The other, again?
Crowdspring.com. Yeah. If you already have a logo and you just need to make it into a happy web-friendly format, you can use a web app called aviary.com, and it's very useful. It is like an online version of Photoshop, but for dummies. So you don't get any whiz-bang special things with it, but you do get really easy-to-use tools that allow you to create graphics that you can use on your website. So let's say you've only got one version of your logo and you need to shrink it down for web use. You can use aviary.com and you don't have to buy expensive tools like Photoshop. You can also source free and cheap photography from iStockPhoto.com. Flickr.com, just make sure you get permission of whoever's photo it is, and always look out for the Creative Commons license, because Creative Commons is good. Or Stock Exchange. Now, Stock Exchange is not as well known as iStockPhoto, but they have a huge range of free or cheap to license photography, and most of it is very high quality, like iStockPhoto. So I've put the URL for Stock Exchange in there. You might want to jot that down, because not many people have used that one before. Okay, so in terms of the design, I've gone back. You can also, once you've got your nice photos and your graphics and your logos, if you need to resize them or crop them, you can use free software such as Picasa, which is provided by Google, or GIMP, or again, aviary.com is worth checking out. Okay, so now you've got all your graphics, you've got all your content, you're ready to build your website. So all you do these days is you paste your content from your Word or text document into the hosted or free or open source CMS, such as Weebly, Wix, Squarespace, or WordPress. Weebly is fairly easy to use. Wix is really, if you are a hairdresser, artist, painter, or graphic designer, it's worth having a look at Wix, because it creates quite fancy, flashy websites in Flash without ever needing to understand how to use Flash, which is quite cool. It's all done in XML, and it also creates text-only versions of your web pages so that they are spiderable by search engines. So it's worth checking that out if you're a real Flash fan. I've found it a little bit clunky and quite limiting, but the templates that they have are fine if all you need to do is create a quick online portfolio. Squarespace we'll talk about a little bit more later on, or WordPress, which most of you have heard of. Once you've pasted your contents in, then I suggest is when you choose your template. So that seems a little bit ass about face, or whatever that British term is, to most people who are used to doing things the old way. The old way was create the pretty design and then fill it with designed a headline that says lorem ipsum, which is only 2 words long, and they have 17 different paragraphs of text, and you've only put 2 in, or they want to have 5 different pictures on the page, and you've only mocked it up with 1. So I actually think the best way to do it is to start by putting your contents into the system and then working the design backwards. So that's just my recommendation. Feel free to do it the other way if you want to. So once you've chosen the template, then you can upload your graphics and change colors and whatever to your heart's content. Now, the reason why I use Squarespace, and the reason why out of the last 20 websites I've designed, 15 of them have been Squarespace websites, is because of the speed in which you can do things in Squarespace without ever having to understand what CSS is or stands for or means or whatever. Lots of people say that WordPress is as easy to use as Squarespace, and I am here to tell you that they are lying to you. And if you don't believe me, then tell them to call me, and I will have a long, heated discussion with them about why Squarespace is actually easier than WordPress. I don't have a problem with WordPress. Out of the other 20, 3 of the other remaining 5 of my last 20 websites have been WordPress websites, and my own blog is a WordPress blog. I do not have a problem with WordPress, but what I find more often than not is that people are told that WordPress is really easy, and they go in and they try to do something, and because they don't know what they're doing, they break it, and then they don't know how to fix it, and there's no one to call because WordPress is open source, so you can't just call Mr. WordPress and say, hey, Mr. WordPress, it's broken. There are community forums and all of that, but what really sells Squarespace to me, and I do not work for them, they do not pay me, I do not get a commission or anything like that from Squarespace. What really sells it for me is that there is someone at the end of the phone if you do something wrong. It's very difficult to break Squarespace. Really, really difficult. Like, so difficult, I can't say that anybody's ever done it. Even if you accidentally deleted the entire website, you can still pull it back really easily. The other thing is that with WordPress and Weebly and Wix and all of those other ones, what you end up making if you use the free templates is pretty much a cookie cutter copy of other websites that exist out there. And nobody wants their website to look like 7 other websites out there. So everyone always wants to be able to customize it. And that's where I think Squarespace really excels. Oh, the other thing I forgot to say is that all of these templates within Squarespace, or I believe within Weebly and WordPress, usually have already been tested to be cross-browser compatible. So that's a real benefit. And of course, the sorry about that, I'm jumping around a bit. If you need to add extra functionality to your website, these days you don't have to custom build forms and shopping carts and all of that. You can just use plugins, or you can just embed things from other web apps, such as Wufoo for amazing, really easy to use forms, and MailChimp for really easy to create email campaigns, and loads of other shopping cart options out there. These days, I always tell my clients, don't bother hosting your own videos and stuff. Just chuck them up on YouTube or Vimeo and embed them. Let Vimeo deal with the bandwidth issues. You don't want to have to be paying extra money for hosting and all of that. And also, you've got the added benefit of having the communities within those specific sites also gaining access to your content and also being able to be found and searched within search engines. So, use other web apps and just integrate them into your own website. And of course, the great thing is that if you need to make changes, you do not have to tell anyone. You just go in and do